Channel 5 Network. This is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. The 108th General Assembly resumes its session here in Nashville on Tuesday at high noon, January 14th. What are lawmakers going to do and why? Well, we've asked the House Speaker, National Representative Beth Harwell, to join us, and she's going to tell us all about it. Speaker Harwell, thank you so much for coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
This session. So when you start back this time, you don't have to do organizational. You go right back into committees and on the floor just as if nothing had happened since April when you left before. So what's the first things you're going to be doing when you come back in?
Well, the first thing for sure is we'll begin work on the budget. It doesn't stop. That's always the first thing we address as a body, begin the work on the budget.
Now, usually the legislature stays late sometimes because when the budget's real tight. Now, the last few years it hasn't been. In fact, you adjourned as early as mid-April this last year. Are you more likely to get out in mid-April this year? It is an election year. But if you leave, you sort of leave the governor and the administration to make all the money decisions, and you may not know how much money is or isn't there, what has to cut, or what extra money you may have.
Right. Well, an estimated or targeted date of adjournment that the Lieutenant Governor and I have talked to is mid-April, April 17th. Well, that's just targeted. We're not sure exactly when. But before we leave town, we'll make sure that we've passed a budget that the legislature feels comfortable with. As you know, our revenues are down, and so there is not going to be a lot of extra money for any additional projects.
Now, one of the reasons that people thought last year, you ran into some problems at the very end of the session last year. People got mad at each other for various reasons, and they weren't speaking or whatever it was. Some people thought you pushed it just a little too quick to get out of town last year. Looking back on it now, a few months later, how do you feel about that?
I haven't had anyone complain that they had too long a summer break. I think folks, once they leave town, they're happy that we've adjourned. And my goal is not the date of adjournment. My goal always has been to run an efficient and effective legislature. And I think that's one of the things people respect the most about the Tennessee General Assembly. We are a part-time legislature. We are not full-time politicians.
Now, one of the things that's come up as a potential challenge in the budget, with it being tight, was the governor set a priority this summer of saying, gee, we've had this great increase in our test scores with the kids the best in the country among reading and math, and we want the teachers to start getting the largest percent of increase in raises. That didn't look to be as big a problem when the state revenues were going up. Now they're beginning to trend down. How do we? I assume you support the idea of more pay, but how do you do that in this kind of a tight budget environment?
I do, and the important thing you said, Pat, is how well we are doing. We have made great strides. We still have a long way to go, but we were the #1 state in the nation for improvement in education, and that is really a great tribute to our teachers. That means they're working hard.
Where do you find the money to reward teachers for that?
Well, we said all along, you perform and perform well, we'll find the money to reward you accordingly. We do need to pay our teachers well, and it's like any budget that you have. Your home budget, your business budget, you prioritize, and priority is going to be on education this year again.
You have a little less money for another reason. You've cut some taxes.
We have indeed.
Sales taxes were cut a little bit in the groceries areas. You've cut some of the other taxes that were on, people call them death taxes and the gift tax and things like that. Any second thoughts about that? Would you be better off having that money so you could do something with it for teachers?
I have absolutely no second thoughts. We did do the right thing. Had we brought that additional revenue into the state and looked for ways to spend it, we would have had to be making cuts, more significant cuts to our state budget. Instead, we looked for ways to return it to its rightful owner, the taxpayer of the state. And I still predict, and I believe I will be right, that long term we'll bring additional money into the state by lowering those taxes. We're known as the best state to own and operate a business, and that's going to pay off long term.
One thing I want to ask you about, there's a new study that's just come out from the Pew Charitable Trust from a group called State Line. They've done an analysis of the trends in state policy. They've released some predictions for job creation in 2014. They have Tennessee ranked number 44 in the country for adding new jobs. That's pretty low. We're lower than a lot of other southeast states. Our unemployment rate continues to be well above the national average. We've done a lot of things. I think you and the governor both talked about. You've done all these things to be pro-business, to attract the job creators here to Tennessee. So where are they?
Well, I think the real issue is we are creating jobs, but they're jobs that require degrees, and the world has changed significantly, and so now more and more of our jobs are requiring a technical degree, a community college degree, or a college degree, and so we need to encourage more of our young people to pursue these degrees.
Those are long-term or longer-term solutions. What do you do in the short term for the people who are on these long-term unemployment? The Tennessee's unemployment rate has been well above 7% for a long time. It's below that nationally. I think we're still at 8%. What about
we
those
did
people
dip a
who
little
need
bit.
jobs now?
Yeah.
Is there something we should do short term to try to create more jobs in the state?
Well, again, we are creating a pro-business environment, and that's the best we can do. We can't control what's happening to the federal environment, and you talk to a lot of people, what makes them nervous in expanding the economy is what's happening in Washington, D.C., not what's happening in Tennessee.
There's been a lot of talk in Tennessee about another public health issue, and that's what we're going to do about the problem with meth drugs in the state. We've tried a number of things. They don't seem to be working. Is it time to look seriously and enact legislation that would require prescriptions if you're going to go to get cold medicine at the store? Right now, you don't need prescriptions, and a lot of people think that's where the problem is. The people who are making meth can go get it just over the counter.
Right. I do believe legislation will be introduced this session that would do just that, make it a prescription medication. And I am very open to that idea. I haven't been in the past, but we do have a serious problem with meth in this state. What we're looking at right now and gathering the data is those states who have passed it and made it prescription, are they finding a reduction in their meth problem? And the early indication is, in fact, they are.
Now, there's a federal registry for this already, and there's already limits to some extent on what can be bought. Why hasn't that worked? Well,
we have one of the highest limits in the United States, and so that may, in fact, be the way we go. Rather than make it prescription, put a lower limitation in place. We're open to whatever can help us purge this awful situation.
House Speaker Beth Harwell is our guest on Inside Politics. The Tennessee General Assembly comes back into session on Tuesday. We're talking about what lies ahead with the new session. Back to continue our conversation with the Speaker after this break.